Hello, everyone. It is again time for me to fill this nation with my words and with my thoughts and my prayers. This nation will again become alive with the jubilant, energizing through from because of my thoughts and because of my words. It is again time for this country to hear from me, to hear back from me from what I had to say. The country was like, all right, it's our turn to speak. And then they took their turn. And then they threw the ball back to me and they're like, now you take your turn to speak. You've got to say something. And here it is. Here's what I'm about to say. What I'm about to say is the following, however long it takes, series of words. Because it's a series of words, because the reason you construct a sentence is because subsequent words connected is like it has to do with the order of them. Like usually a subject goes before a verb, but to communicate what you mean, it's important that you say the correct order. Order is an important factor in speaking. Otherwise, people will call you inordinate. They will think that you are chaotic. Too much chaos, and people don't know what you're talking about. So the sequence of words that you speak in is also important besides just vocabulary or choice of words or accuracy of words or precision of words, the sequence of words and its sequences. It really is sequences that drive the world and make the world what it is. Not actually, I'm just kidding. Let me get to a place of generosity with my speech. Let me be generous. Let me be like a liberal guy. Let me be like one of those liberal ass, generous motherfuckers that give back to the world. And it's just that the world plays out in a couple ways. One of the ways that you're going to want to recognize the way that people talk to each other is that there are real people and then there are fake people. Sure, there are fake people and then there are real people, but you're going to want to recognize that there are people that are fake before they're real, and then there are people that are real before they're fake. This is an important distinction between these two kinds of people. It would help you in life to know which is which. It's not easy to figure this out because who's being fake and who's being real. But I'm telling you, it is even more complex than that. There are some people that trend towards fake, and then there are some people that trend towards real in their relationships, in the way that they divulge themselves to people, in the way that they reveal themselves. There are people, I've come across this. Which one do you think you are? I would say I am a person that is fake before they are real. I think that you're one of the two in the way that you are like a liberal or a conservative. Liberals are real before they're fake. Conservatives are fake before they're real. And I also think that both of these groups of people would accept this description as their preferred description. I think liberals would prefer to be real before fake, and conservatives would prefer to be fake before real. And so I'm trying to define these groups of people, but I'm talking about conservatives deal more in conspiracy theories, for one. Conspiracy theories are fake before they are real, if they are real at all, but they divulge themselves as fake up front. Liberals divulge themselves as real up front, but they would prefer the description real before fake. They want to be real. They're like, love exists literally. The people who are saying the word love or saying that they're doing something in the name of love, that's what love actually is. Because love is real the way that it is at least described up front or shown up front. Liberals are generous with their personalities. They give too much away, and they do so at the behest of being imaginative or creative. They give because they're generous with who they are. Conservatives, even if you don't agree with me that it's conservatives, it's like people that have a conservative mindset besides that the political bent of being conservative. Like people that are conservative conserve their personality. They are fake up front, in the name of trending towards being real. Like and you might recognize that there are people like this in life, or you might recognize that you're a kind of person that just like slowly gives away who you are with your relationships. Like I would say that I'm like this to just about everybody. I slowly give away who I am. Maybe it's just to conservatives are more concerned with money and conserving who they are, conserving money, and the like at the like the reason you wouldn't give away everything up front is because maybe you could make something out of what you're not giving away, what you're conserving. But it's like conservatives don't like money that's going out the door, um, for one. But like there are people like this that reveal themselves. But it's the case, I would say, that conservatives reveal themselves to be real. This is what they like to do. Liberals like to reveal themselves to be fake. It's always liberals that are like, oh, I'm not a doctor or a lawyer. I'm not really real. I'm not a scientist. They always want to explain that they don't have the authority, or that they are actually fake, or that they just came from a small town and they're nobody. Liberals like to say that they're nobody. They do this by being real up front and revealing to you, then like revealing that they're fake. Conservatives like to reveal themselves to be more important or like that. But it is this these are just two ways of being. Some people think that realness is revealing yourself to be more of it. Some people think that realness is being it up front and then ignoring your, like, being generous with your personality. Some people think that being real is doing things in the name of being more surprising, or like revealing more, like being withholding, not forthcoming up front, whatever. And then revealing it as time goes on. Some people like to reveal themselves to be more real, and then this is what's real. If you think that that's real, then that's just that. Then you're a conservative, you know. If you think that, but like that, you do something in the name of being real, or in the name of being fake. It's just that some people like fake more, and I would say that these people reveal themselves to be fake, or trend toward it, or show you that that's who they are, because that's what they prefer. There are people that like fake, there are people that like real. The East Coast is real, the West Coast is fake. The East Coast is real because it's solid like a statue, and it's statuesque, like Washington, D.C., and the Statue of Liberty, and Yankee Stadium, and the Babe Ruth, and the statuesque and founding fathers statues. The East Coast is statuesque. It's real. It's authentic. But like to the extent that you call a statue real, it is sort of because it's drenched in just like I mean, what would you call it other than real? The solidness of a statue? Like it's a way of memorializing or realizing people that were important to us. Like there aren't too many ways to do that better than creating a statue in the name, like to try to make something real. But that's not what makes the East Coast real. What makes them real is just like a New York mentality, or but I would say this is a certain amount of pessimism. I'd say that the East Coast is pessimistic, the West Coast is optimistic. And so you're going to have to avoid thinking of both of these in terms of politically, the coasts are more liberal. That's not really what I'm not saying that, or that it's like a liberal conservative thing. The West Coast is fake because of maybe like too much optimism, or just, I mean, there's realness with it. It's just the beauty, but like beautiful women, beautiful beaches. It's just that the realism of the East Coast is like too it's too real. Like it's just like, oh, the world isn't that great. I would say that you have East Coast comedians like Pete Davidson is East Coast, and he just kind of has a pessimistic view on things. But the West Coast is more like anything is possible. West Coast maybe like Chris D'Elia, and he's like life rips, but a life rips mentality, or being like California cool and not having any worries or cares in the world. This is a false sense of reality. California is out of their minds, like Hollywood is out of their minds. They're fake. And like, but this is just a point that I'm trying to drive home. I forget forget. It's just that there's real and then there's fake. There's people that prefer fake. There's people that are wrong. There's people that are right. It's just that you're like everybody maybe likes to say that they're right, but they go about it in different ways. But the liberal versus conservative thing, and like liberal versus conservative thing is like this, where liberals are generous or real versus fake. But and that's what I wanted to say, and now I feel sad. Now I feel sad because I don't really know. I'm closing myself off from continuing the train of thought or saying anything more interesting because I'm reaching the extent of the way that I played out in my head how I would issue this example over the microphone. And but like there's the East Coast is real. They are like they're and then this results in pessimism. And now I feel sad. Now I feel sad about talking. And that's all right. Not everything is happy and enthusiastic the entire time. Maybe I'm just coming down from like a coffee high or something. You ever notice like if you drink lots of coffee that you're sad at the point that you stop drinking it? Like during the day, it just makes it so that the morning is the happiest time of the day, and then the point at which you stop drinking coffee, just to hold yourself accountable enough to not be addicted enough, you're drinking it 24/7. You have to stop at some point. And I mean, maybe you don't. Some people just make it so they drink all the time, so then they're never sad. But for me, like, I stop drinking coffee, I get kind of sad. And this happens like daily. This is the downside of drugs. The downside of drugs is that there's a downside. There's like a crash usually for any one of them, especially the ones that give you a really great high. There's a crash. But I wanted to talk about more so than just the real and fake today. Let's talk about AstraZeneca and the importance of AstraZeneca in your heart and life. My stance on the vaccine is that if you already let the media invade your mind, then you probably should get a vaccine, because why not also let them invade your body? If you are already convinced of this reality where the virus is like one of the most important things, which is only a reality perpetuated by the media, if you already let the media invade your mind, then you should also allow them to invade your body and inject you with the media virus. The media is like the virus at this point because it is only the media that cares about showing you the virus and telling you in images and collages of medical authority, people in medical gowns and outfits, and people in like hazmat suits, and the combination of the two, because all of a sudden medicine has become this nuclear waste. Like that's how crazy it is, the shit that they're dealing with. And it's just really the case that Moderna and Pfizer and AstraZeneca, they've consulted every hospital in the world in order to come out with the products that they're coming out with. And just like their medical authority is really founded. I mean, it's really grounded because they've talked to all the hospitals in the world in order to be able to speak on what is medical, certainly. The same with the CDC. The CDC is in they're doing everything for the best interest of the people. They're like gathering data all over. They're taking the time to figure out what's best for regular people. Like that's what the CDC is doing. Their medical authority is based on like that they've consulted with so many different hospitals. And I'm saying all that to say that they don't do any of that because all that they care about, the only people they're concerned with pleasing are not regular people getting the vaccine. It's just they're concerned with pleasing the billions of dollars that pour into their organizations to prop them up as the be all end all on medical authority. They are concerned with answering to the billions of dollars that gets injected into their organization and where the money is coming from. So like Pfizer and Moderna and AstraZeneca are concerned with pleasing the people that give them lots of money. They would probably be bankrupt if it weren't for media agencies that that draw draw up a virus and impress that on the entire world. Like, if it weren't for a media that is pushing the agenda of that this virus is very important and in your life all the time, maybe AstraZeneca wouldn't make as many billions of dollars. But like, if you're interested in having corporational ideology injected into your body, then you can get you should get the vaccine. If that's what you like. If you like that to be a part of you always, and rather than just hearing their messages, because the media has been in the business of drawing up drama and tension over things that they don't need to, so that they can give themselves a name and say that they have something to speak on. They've been doing that for a while, like pretty strongly over the last 50 years. They've been overemphasizing and over stigmatizing all kinds of shit that they're saying is happening in the world. It's just that the virus is the new one, and that's their special one, and that's what we've arrived at in this day and age. And it's like, this same media that is like the same media that's telling you to make sure that your kids are always inside because they're going to get kidnapped. The same media that's been telling you that's made it so that a whole generation of kids is stay inside more, which it's like this media is connected to production companies that create TV channels specifically for children, to keep them inside all the time. But the entire thing is just a giant narrative that appeals to baby boomers about that, oh, kids today don't go outside. Because like CBS owns Nickelodeon, but they're also in everybody's local area. CBS has a local news in every area of the country too, that they also own. And that local news is telling all of the parents that uh, your kids are just up to no good in every single area and should stay inside, but also even watch out for what they're doing inside, because they're always participating in some new phenomenon that's horrifying because it's youthful. And so, like, CBS is in the business of painting a picture that appeals to baby boomers, and like the entire like generational identity of boomers. A lot of it is sold to them by the media, or the media helps take the responsibility for generating and circulating the narrative quite a bit. Like, for instance, it's the media that comes up with the term like millennials to describe the generation that's younger than boomers, because millennial is like it's like a derogatory term for the generation that's younger than them. And so it's like boomers would like to have a term that more accurately describes the generation younger than them, so that they can deride them over things. The reason that the term millennial is derogatory is because you create a name for a generation so that you can further characterize them beyond the set of years in which they are born, so that you can give more character, or at least you give a different title to the range of years of the people born that you're talking about. This is why you come up with a title for a generation. So there is nothing significant or distinguishing about a title that emphasizes the range of years the same way. Like boomers, that doesn't have anything to do with like 1960s or anything like that. Millennials is a name that already describes the range of years, because that is the range of years is people that come of age during the 21st century, during the dawning of the new millennium. Like technically speaking, like millennials is 1981 to 1996, apparently, which it is arbitrary where you draw the lines, because somebody born in 1995 has lived a much different life than somebody born in 1981, with the way that they're going to identify with their age group through the phenomenons that they connect themselves to people their age with. These phenomenons are different decade to decade, they're different year to year. And so, like, if you really wanted to accurately describe the way that people are different across generations, you could get really discerning and be like, well, 92 was like this, and 93, you could give a name to every single year if you really wanted to be intelligent. Like, and by the way, but I'm going off on a tangent of sorts. I'm trying to I'm trying to not come across as mean so that I can like actually say what I'm talking about, like as if this has to be mean or something. It's just that it's just that CBS owns Nickelodeon, and there's a lot of shit that's on Nickelodeon that's kind of weird. This is the point that I wanted to say. I want to talk about what was I just saying? I was saying that media corporations, there's just like pretty consistently across cable TV, which cable TV appeals to boomers, and pretty consistently across it is like you have TV channels that are just for kids that kids have to watch, and then what is reinforced on these networks is that they are kids. And so like Nickelodeon didn't reach mainstream popularity until the 90s. Like I think it existed in the 80s, but they were just running like the same show or something like that. But it's the thing about a channel like Nickelodeon is that if you're watching it for a long time, they reinforce that you're a kid over and over and over again. And I think that boomers as a generation have a problem reinforcing the idea to their kids that they are kids. Like this is something that happened more in the 80s and 90s than at other time periods, like way more so than is happening today or like past the new millennium, because people realize that the media is false to some extent, like because um, because kids that grew up in the 80s and 90s, this is like they're growing up under a group of parents that have been sold on the media, and the media is telling them that kids shouldn't go outside, and then this same media is helping kids not go outside so that the narrative is even more true. But I'm saying that they're like on a number of sides of this where the kids are not going outside. But like these are parents that don't want their kids to go outside because parents from the 80s and 90s are like moral majority, and they're sold on that the war on drugs is important and that family is the only important thing and morality is the only important thing. So they're afraid of everything, and the media is constantly reinforcing to parents that they should be afraid of everything and that murder exists this much to the point, and it's so that boomers can indulge in their own identity to say that they were the kids that went outside, and now you can't because there's too many murderers. But there's only too many murderers because the media feeds boomers this message, because boomers are sold on the media, and it's boomers are the reason that cable TV even exists today. Like the only people watching that are boomers. And like it's all that. And Nickelodeon is a strange experience looking back, I would say. I'd say that there's a lot of weird shit going on that channel because it's run by pedophiles, for one. There's probably a number of pedophiles involved. This is evident. This is like provably, looking back, there are pedophiles involved in programming of Nickelodeon. That's not what I'm talking about so much, it doesn't have to be so dark as that. What I'm talking about is like if you watch an episode of Double Dare 2000, this is a bizarre environment. This is like I watched an episode of Double Dare 2000 recently, and it's like watching the episode of Goosebumps where the family goes to an amusement park and then they end up in a game show where they're fighting against monsters to like win a prize, like to win a car, but the odds are stacked against them at this amusement park. Like everything is stacked against them at this amusement park, and they shouldn't have gone into it because the entire thing is a trap, and they're like trying to escape, but it's kind of like being trapped in a bad dream. Is this Goosebumps episode? But it's like a regular family, a regular ass 90s family that goes to this amusement park just to have a day of fun, and then they get trapped in this game show where they're fighting against monsters, but the odds are stacked against them so that they would like never win anyway. And that's what Double Dare 2000 is like actually in real life. It's almost like, but you understand that horror is made to critique these kinds of things, whether or not, like, you wouldn't be able to see the direct link at the time, but I think that horror allows you to look back and see, like, you look back at horror that happened during the time period, and I think you could see how it's related to things that were happening in a number of cases. And like the 70s 70s is a big boon for horror movies, and there's like horrific things happening in the 70s that the culture has to answer to, like the emergence of serial killers, like in wide numbers. And so it's like the media draws on the amount of serial killers that emerged in the 70s to convince audiences in the 80s that, like, oh yeah, there's killers out there. But it's just that there were always killers, there are always kidnappers. Like, it's not necessarily true that, oh, it's all of a sudden in the 60s that there were, maybe just because media came around to emphasize or bring light to serial killers. So there's not bad in that. It's just that they take their power too far to say, like, well, we have the authority over murderers because we know when a murder happens or whatever. Because any local news is like, we're they go and cover a mass shooting. They're like, there's this massive shooting that just happened, and we own this shooting, by the way. Do you see that we're here? We actually own this shooting, and we are the ones that are delivering it to you. And the details about the shooting that come out are our details, because those are the only important ones, because we own this shooting, and we're going to tell you what's important about it. So it's like they exist to own horrible accidents or tragedies that happen to people, and it's like they don't care about them because they're ignoring them because they are covering these things just for money. So it's like the most significant and tragic event that happens to a regular person in their life, the media is cycling through these like water on a daily basis. They are that insensitive. They are that ruthless a group of people. They are covering the worst moments in people's lives for a buck, for themselves, and saying that they own them, and saying that they own people's deaths and shit like that. And like that's what it is. But I hope I'm recording this. Yeah. I hope I'm recording it. I am. I did record it. I hit record. I'm a good person. I'm a perfect guy. And I'm a good person. I'm really good. I'm a good guy. But like Double Dare 2000 is like this Goosebumps episode where the family gets trapped on a game show, because the families that are on Double Dare 2000, it is like they got trapped in a game show where the odds are stacked against them, where there's nothing that they can do, because unbeknownst to them, they signed up for this event that their family is going to remember forever. Like, do you remember when we went on national TV just for them to slime all of us 1,000 times, cover us in gunk and suds for the entire nation to enjoy? Like, but you would have to understand that at the time of the year 2000, which is what the namesake of this show, I think, is why they called it that. It was understood that you would do anything to get on TV, because this is just a mentality across the country. It isn't that way now, because it doesn't mean anything to be on TV, because everybody's on TV all the time by videotaping themselves, whatever. At the time of the year 2000, everybody was just concerned with being on TV. They didn't care what the fuck they would do, so they're like willing to put their apparently these families are willing to put themselves in a demeaning situation, because the games that they play are all like the father has to dress up like a baby while they're like squirting bottles down around him with like suds and slime or whatever, or they're making a mom dig through like this makeshift giant monster, like that they're like, okay, dig through its guts to find a flag. And so these are like bizarre, demeaning tasks that they make the family do, but also the host is like worse than any late night show host and making fun of these families. He like goes after the kids for doing like race car driving or something. Like, this host goes after every member of the family and makes fun of them, particularly for what they do. And then the family is just like, oh, okay. Like, they don't have any response. They're only there to be ridiculed, and they don't even realize it, but they just signed up so that they could be on TV. It's like an American problem maybe, but they maybe probably regret doing it the second that they're on there. I don't know. I'm not sure if they probably just don't recognize beforehand, or they don't care because you just used to do things in the name of getting on TV or whatever. but like these are well-meaning 90s families too, so that makes it worse. Like 90s families have no awareness that they can be self-deprecating about their family. They've just been sold on like advertisements and sitcoms that show perfect families. I mean, like they're more sold on it than a family would be now. Like a family now probably doesn't take themselves seriously, but 90s families that think that they are supposed to have this really strong family identity and be united, these are the kinds of families being ridiculed to death on Double Dare 2000. And I mean, I just think it's kind of dark a little bit, but what it looks like is like a family that's just signed up for a horrible situation, just, and they're doing it just to get prizes, and they're shitting on, like, the Double Dare 2000 people are shitting on this family by being like, okay, go for the triple dare, go for the triple dare. Like the families beg, they want these families to beg for more prizes, and the parents have to go along with it because they're like, okay, my kid, they don't want to look like they're denying their kids the opportunity to get a prize or whatever. Going for the triple dare is always incorrect because nobody gets it but it's like the triple dare is okay, now all of the family has to be covered in slime for this task as opposed to just two of them. Like the triple dare to get the prize is always like you look worse. But this whole TV channel is about like covering kids in slime that don't on national TV that are like in the middle of puberty, stuff like that. And that's not positive, maybe. I'm just saying that that's kind of funny. That's kind of funny, isn't it? But that's what that channel is about for things like that. But it's just that it's a little bit sadistic. Nickelodeon is kind of sadistic, and Cartoon Network is more benign. Cartoon Network is more for benign people, but it's more for Generation Z. Nickelodeon is more for millennials, but like millennials is a Generation Y. But what I was saying is that the term millennial doesn't further characterize that group of people like past the set of years that they grew up in because it already defines them by those years. Like it defeats the purpose of defining a generation. But then again, to be fair, millennials is a term that catches on because it applies to the generation, and it's like emphasizes that group of people is not very identifiable if if the only way you can define them is like, okay, these are the years that they grew up. Maybe a part of the reason that that term catches on is because millennials are kind of undefinable, or they're not very good at identifying themselves. I'd say that boomers are good at identifying themselves, and Generation Z is maybe good at identifying themselves better than millennials. But that's because they're a Z. And a Z, you know that a Z is special. You know that a Z is special because a Z ends the alphabet. But you already, because it's like closing off the thing, you already know that a Z is special as like a Z. There's something interesting about that. Generation Y, that's kind of undefinable because millennial is Generation Y, and this is a more accurate term, and that's why I say millennials is media generated term, because you already had a term for this generation, but millennials circulates because it's a better way of calling this group of people a name that is more derogatory. Millennials are Generation Y, and this is accurate because the letter Y says what they are. The generation that is Generation Y, they are unidentifiable the same way a Y is. A Y is both a vowel and a consonant, and this is what Generation Y is. They don't know what they are. Millennials don't know what they are, and so they're kind of worthy of ridicule for these reasons, because they're not as identifiable as a Z. A Z knows what they are. Generation X is a little bit like Generation Y. A little bit, and Generation X was derided by the media at the time that they were coming into their own, but over time the media lasted long enough so that the 90s, when Generation X was coming of age in like the late 80s and 90s, this is still part of the media's height, and so the media eventually adopted Generation X as their own because they would say that the 80s is part of their identity, that kind of thing, or because Generation X kind of identifies himself to TV more so. But it's kind of like at the point that Kurt Cobain died, that is like around the time of the ending of the media's peak youthfulness, but more so the ending of Generation X's uh peak as youthful. Like that's the ending of Generation X's time to be popular and mainstream is when Kurt Cobain died. I would say that Nirvana is a mostly Generation X product because of what they were wearing and the not caring mentality that they were putting out there, even if they're doing things in the name of making like popular songs. Like though some of that might be an act to look that way, it's like it was still real to them is why it's authentic enough. It was a phenomenon, you know. And I'd say it's a product of Generation X because Generation X is all about like hating everything, and that's kind of the way that Nirvana sounds, is that they hate everything. But Generation X is about that not caring and doing things in the name of wearing black, and being like an X, like I don't know, wearing black and not caring, and kind of like Marilyn Manson. This is what reminds me of Generation X, but also like maybe like the '70s. I don't give enough credit to that part of it because I think that that generation, it's technically like people born in the late '60s and the '70s, but they used to be derided by the media. Generation Y is also derided by the media, and but Generation X also is a little bit like Y, where they don't totally know who they are, but they're not like a Y. I'd say that there's something special about a Y because it is both a vowel and a consonant. Like there just happens to be something special about that second to last letter of the alphabet. There didn't have to be. There is all you already know what's special about a Z. Um, but like this is like what millennials are. They're not very identifiable. I would say that um it's like so there's all of that. But if you want AstraZeneca like in your body, then go ahead and do it. If you want to put that in you, then do it. You like them, and you like that a corporation made a product and is telling you that they are important in your life. Like Moderna is saying that they deserve to be in your life so much that they should be in your body. Like they should be injected as a hormone of sorts that fucks with your that fucks with, well, like I'm not sure all of them do the mRNA, but like I think Pfizer does. So Pfizer thinks that they deserve to be in your life so much that they're fucking with your DNA and shit like that. That's what these companies are saying. They're like, well, so if you believe this giant advertising campaign that the virus is very important, and as a result, the vaccine companies, our saviors, are even more so important. If you believe that giant campaign, then then Moderna does deserve to be in you, just like they say, if you think that that's true, because it's like the whole thing is, I'm sure that the numbers for them saying that this many people in the country have now been vaccinated, those are way exaggerated. It's the same thing as like, well, everybody's buying Hondas, you got to get down here immediately. It's the same thing as that everyone's buying Hondas. It's like everybody's getting this vaccine because these pharmaceutical companies are making billions of dollars, and they're all in the same game with whoever originated this virus. And Dr. Fauci was involved before this pandemic was launched on the world, and Bill Gates was involved before it was launched on the world within and without plenty of media companies that were already giving him great publicity. But besides that, the multiple vaccine companies that he's invested billions of dollars in for the last 20 years should be a good tell for you to say that maybe some of this was planned, seeing as that he has all these billions of dollars specifically in the area of vaccines. And but the thing is, so these corporations will make billions of dollars off of this. Good for them. It's just that like you don't need to support that, I don't think. And we're all supposed to not care about anybody taking the vaccine. Like, I don't want it to get to the point that the media all of a sudden has the power to say, oh, this is mandatory. We got to tell everybody that this is what has to play out. But it's just that there's a lot of liberal mentality that's pervaded every corner of popular media besides TikTok. And like TikTok is one of the only places left for free and open media where you could have an open conversation where the vaccine could be criticized, because every other place is very reasonable. They're very reasonable. They're very given over to reason. You see even YouTube comment sections, like YouTube is totally given over to literalism and reason at this point. You see it because consistently across the comment section under every video, it's people like accurately describing what went down and saying, oh, this person that did this thing is talented, and like, oh, we're all on the same side. Like, it's just every comment section, the top comment agrees with the video so that there's no dissension. It's just that liberal, like the media complex, the giant thing, like the globalists, finally realized that it's better to not give a platform to anybody dissenting and just to ignore them. And that's what they're doing. They're going about things silently ignoring and silently demonetizing everybody who's on the right. Like anybody who would disagree with their agenda. They're just silently doing it now rather than giving a platform to everybody who disagrees to say that you should hate this person. The media's new strategy is just to ignore everybody, and this is a better strategy, but it comes through in like Twitter and YouTube, where Twitter is completely liberal now, but they do it under the guise of like, oh, we're just, everybody's agreeable and fair, and everybody is interested this much in establishment LGBT rights and this much interested in the European whatever, like different it's always emphasizing different countries, or just emphasizing that the GOP sucks, or that people are anti-vaxxers if they don't agree with the vaccine. This is all of what's trending on Twitter. And it's the same with Reddit, what is popular on Reddit. Obviously subreddits more specific, so they get into more probably conspiratorial, or they allow for more conservative things. But Reddit as an organization has just generally been permeated with a sense of reason. Like everyone is reasonable and everybody's agreeing, and their popular shit is all just the GOP sucks. Like all their political things are completely one-sided, but it's just that giant media corporations have gotten to the point where, I mean, they've somehow made it so they're all on the same page. Like TikTok is not like this. You understand that there is a more open conversation about LGBT rights on TikTok. People have different opinions. You get more interesting things said about it. In Twitter, there is only one kind of gay person that is allowed, and that is the proud gay person. And that's the way that is. There's more open conversation about that on TikTok. There's more open conversation about politics, or just people who hate the vaccine for whatever. And so the media couldn't get everybody. But probably at some point, media corporations will start decrying TikTok and saying that that's the worst thing on the planet, because there's just like, I'm not being very substantial. I'm not being substantial at all. I'm just giving you too much. I'm just riding over the top of it. I'm just saying some points that I thought of before. I apologize. It's just that let's talk about these generations. Let's talk about, where does the generation begin and where does it end? The generation, I'm just giving you, I suck at what I do. I'm just so terrible. I'm so shitty. I don't know. I'm so bad at this. God, I suck. And I'm just like, let's talk about these generations. Where does it begin and end? Why do people get upset about Generation Y versus Generation Z? Why? Why do they? Like, everybody else in the world acts like millennials don't want to be millennials or something. Like it's that bad to be that. I think you should just call a millennial Generation Y. Generation Y is basically just people who were born in the 90s, or people who would identify to the 90s. The 90s is transitional decade. It's a special decade, I would say. It's not like, but it's like Generation X would identify to the 90s too, because they probably saw more of it. But it's the 90s is like contemplative for one. It's contemplative, which is different from the 80s. So it's more introspective. The 90s is way more introspective than the 80s. The 80s is just loud. And people act like it's the greatest thing to be Generation Z, or that like you would hate to be a millennial. It's a millennial, and when the boundaries for these things are arbitrarily drawn, like it doesn't. There are people that are Generation Z that are born in the millennial time frame. There's people that are millennial that are born in the Generation Z time frame. There's people like it's not the same across the board. These are broad brush, like organization ways to organize things. And like what year does it start for you? What year does Generation Z start? I'd say Generation Z is like the 90s gives birth to that. Like it starts in the 90s. Generation Z starts in the 90s. It starts with, especially with people born 1994 and after. So it's like 1994. Mm, mm, no. Yeah, people born like 94 and after are like, this is, in my opinion, Generation Z mentality, which is doesn't take things very seriously, and where a group of friends is not concerned with individual dramas as much as whatever the generation before them is. The generation, like millennial generation, I think that the common criticism is that they maybe take things seriously enough. They take things less seriously than boomers, certainly, and less seriously than Generation X. I'd say the seriousness decreases over time, but the seriousness of it decreases over time for people, decreases, so that Generation Z is just relatively less serious than like any other generation, basically. But like I'd say that millennials are they still participate in like individual dramas and are still concerned with being right and wrong and winning arguments and shit like that. Generation Z is not as concerned with people's individual dramas. Like they might write that off or ignore somebody. It's like Generation Z maybe peer pressures in their friend groups, peer pressures each other to not caring about things, as opposed to generations before them, it was understood that people's individual dramas were to be cared about. Like Generation Z assumes that it doesn't matter, like they don't really care about things. And I would say that like in a group of friends, I mean they do, like they're dramatic about things, but they also are more eloquent at defining it to be drama, like, or saying like the drama, like Generation Z is more willing to accept that the drama is something that they're creating, or it's like maybe it has to do with the way that they approach drama, but this is definitive of that time period. Is like American society over the last 20 years or whatever is coming to grips with their relationship with drama to some extent, or because America is more dramatic, and this is a result of caring about performances and TV shows and things like that, or seeing your life as if you're in a TV show, or like thinking that the only way you're important is if you imagine yourself to be famous, or like what it would look like for you to be famous or in a TV show. It's like obviously not everybody does this. I'm just saying that the culture kind of ends up saying a lot about like, or like it reinforces that you would be important for, I mean, but it doesn't do that anymore. Anyway, it's like what I'm saying is a fictional person is not better than a regular person, and this is what America has come to grips with in destroying Hollywood, is that no fictional person is better than a regular person. There's no fictional person that somebody could write that is more complex than a regular person. That's because a fictional character is just written by a couple of writers who are combining a series of images that they've collected of people that they know or people that they've seen, and they're trying to be like, okay, this is a character, but they didn't give birth to a new person, like, and you would also have to do a lot more work to develop a person. Like when you have a baby, you have to be around them every day for 18 years. To write a fictional character doesn't take as much work, and also the fictional character gets to be whatever you want. A fictional character is the result of exactly what the writer wanted. People don't turn out that way. You don't have a baby and then it's exactly what you wanted. The kind of person you don't get to imagine into existence the exact. So there's a lot of idealism in a fictional character, but that's why they're fictional. This is an irrational picture of reality, but yet everybody in the world is going around like equating each other with fictional characters, or saying like really intelligent people are like Rain Man, or like A Beautiful Mind, and this is like a picture of a smart person. It's like, oh, you're like the smart person, as if people are supposed to measure up to a fictional character. This is what people are acting like, at least especially in the time when we gave more credit to film and movies to dictate our lives to us. Is we're saying that fictional characters are what is to be measured up to you as a regular person, when in reality a fictional character has nothing on a real person, obviously. So a real person is more complex than some imagined thing that somebody wrote. It's easier to write something into existence than to exist, actually. And like um so maybe Generation Z approaches this conundrum of drama with more open-mindedness, and so as a result they see around it and influence the rest of the world to say, oh, drama is this, it's just like playing out drama, because that's kind of one of the ways. And maybe like that stereotype is a few years old, that it's like Generation Z always talks about the drama that they're involved in. That's kind of a, but like, I don't know. I don't really know what they're doing. I don't, but I mean, it's difficult for one person to say, like, this is what a generation is. And it always comes across as superficial, I would say, when like SNL runs Gen Z Hospital as the skit that they do. That SNL is saying that they could speak on behalf of a generation. It comes across as somewhat superficial, but obviously SNL is in the game of helping a generation identify to things. That's one of the things that they do. It's one of the services that they provide, is they create a safe place for a generation to say, this is what my generation does. It's just that Gen Z Hospital, that this skit exists as a collection of stereotypes about Generation Z. I don't think that is ever funny. Really, I don't think that that's funny. Like trying to speak on a generation, I don't think that you're able to. Because it's just not. You wouldn't be able to match the complexity of a situation like that. And people are different individual to individual. Like that, everybody in it's just kind of like it just circulates stereotypes, sort of. But that's whatever. And that's what that is. It's just that, so there's Generation Y, and then after that is Generation Z. I think, in my experience, Generation Z mentality starts around 94, and it's like a Generation Z mentality is not giving a fuck as much, or at least purporting to not give a fuck, really showing, but they actually don't care about the drama of things as much as like older generations take things too seriously. That's part of it. But it's like it's whatever. I don't feel great about what I record, but I do feel great. I feel great about what I recorded. No, I don't feel great about what I recorded. I just wanted to be enthusiastic. I wanted to show you that I was behind what I was doing. So I was like, I don't want to look like I'm second guessing myself.
I'm free. I'm very free. I'm very free and open. But the media is just in the business of critiquing families and shitting on them. That's why they come up with 80,000 different ways of communicating what a family is, and fictionalized versions of it, caricatures of the American family. They're just ridiculing and criticizing the family. I mean, like they're scoffing at them by defining the family to like, oh, this is what any sitcom is, or like anything that has a family in it is like, this is what a family looks like. When and this is for entertainment. People like caricatures because they like to be amused, but sometimes the country takes it too far and it becomes that the audience is melded with the performance and people are like connected with the TV, and like people become melded with what goes on to the point that they think that they can see other people through like the filter of a television screen, or like they might start like the amount that we watch Netflix nowadays is like you might the most of the conversations you're participating in are like happening on Netflix. There's be among fictional characters and you overheard it. And it might influence you to start thinking like when that's most of what you're hearing is true about people is like the written responses of fictional characters to each other, because the show Scandal a is not nothing, no phrase or sentence that anybody says on that show is realistic. Nothing, everything is overly dramatic and overblown. But I don't know, I guess you'd watch the show because you think it presents a real picture of life, and so like that's what you consume a lot of it because it says something true about the world. But I mean, you might just everything in moderation. You might just take these things too far and then start thinking that the best people in the world or whatever. Like, I'm really cool. I'm really cool. I'm a nice guy and I'm really cool. And it's like it's the case that I'm still your friend, as I've mentioned before, and I'm on the right side of history. I'm on the right side of things. I am right, but I'm lovely. I'm a lovely guy. I'm a lovely man. That's what I am. I'm probably the loveliest man. Did you know that about me? Did you know that I'm the loveliest man? Had you heard that? I bet you hadn't. Had you heard that I'm the loveliest guy? Are you aware? Do you know that you are in not in the presence of the loveliest guy? Do you know but still hearing from him? Does that is that off-putting today? Is that troubling to you that I would tell you that I was the loveliest man? Does that concern you? Does that stir up something in your heart? Are you worried? Are you concerned? Did you know that I was the loveliest man? Had you pre-pondered? Had you predetermined me to be that? Had you considered that before? And maybe if you weren't, maybe you should be more considerate. Maybe you should try to figure out why you aren't as particular to consideration. Considering people, maybe be more considerate. Understand that I am a positive influence. I am a good person. I love love. I love loveliness. I love good-heartedness. I am pleasant and poignant. I am a good guy. Did you know that? I have things to say. And it's not about me. It's not about me either. Sure, sure, important things are said sometimes by important people and the like, but what it comes down to is that at the end of the day, I got your back. I do. I definitely do. Being on
somebody that you just listen to and that I'm not actually around to have your back in any physical instance. But you understand that I digress. I digress, just like anybody does. I digress too. Hey, I digress and I dye grass. I dye it other colors. I dye it purple. I don't give a fuck. I dye grass purple. Who gives a shit? Who gives a sh- who? People are like, grass is green. Look at this grass is green, and then they're like, this grass over here is pimento green. This grass is California extra alfalfa green. This green is this grass invented green. They're like, my grass invented green. That's how green it is. Green takes orders from my grass. That's the way it is. That's the way it is for a lot of people. But you know what? I dye grass. I'm like, make it silver. Make it silver. Do you think that, did you start considering that grass could be different colors, but yet you did not consider that it could be silver? I go where people haven't gone. I cross that boundary. Because I'm sick of it. Because I'm sick of it. I'm sick of everyone telling me when you start dyeing grass, you can't dye it silver. I cross that line. I live that life. I do it. But I'm not against you. I'm not against you. I am for the people. And I have to be, and I had to be. Had to be it. Had to go there. I had to do it because of the strength of my character. Because of the strength of my character, it was found within me. It was found within me good-heartedness, good-naturedness, loveliness, the full embodiment of kindness, patience, joy. That was probably the best part of the entire hour, obviously. It's like the only thing that people like is if you're being funny, really. Like that's the only way you would increase viewership, actually, is if I was just being, if I was not giving credit to myself for like saying something interesting and then declaring that I did something interesting immediately after. Do I know anything? Do I know how this works? Can I make a good episode, or do I not know anything? Do I not know anything about this thing I have chosen to do and identify myself through? Podcasting. Am I an idiot? Am I stupid? Huh. That's a head scratcher. Am I stupid? Wait. But this is on a more serious note, consider this question in your life. Wait, am I stupid? Because you might think that you're good at everything. If you think you're good at everything, ask yourself, wait, am I stupid? Because you might find it in yourself to be stupid. And you might find that you are denying yourself the right to be stupid and not care about things. If you find that you're always trying to not be stupid, ask yourself, was I stupid? Am I stupid today? That's my message for you. Thank you.